but it will work. Mike from around the world. How are you tonight, Mike?
Pastor Paul, give me a second and let me hook something up here, okay?
Okay.
Give me just one moment.
While you're doing that, we're going to make sure they can hear you good and me, because I have to do it a little different tonight than I normally do due to some technical problems I'm having.
Okay, mine's about to change just in a second.
Okay.
Hold on.
Okay. We'll hold on, folks. I'm on Truth Social. For those that want to join me, I joined Truth Social about 2 weeks ago. I've got 470 followers. Of course, Truth Social just now getting off the ground, and you have to join it. You have to have an iPhone, but soon the Androids will start working, as Donald Trump is working hard to get his hands.
Paul, how do you hear me?
I hear you good. We hear you, I think, pretty good. Folks,
great.
Let me ask the people, can you guys hear Mike from around the world? Let's see what they say here.
Hopefully they can. 5 by 5. Good to go.
Wow, he's loud and clear. All right.
Good to go.
All right, Mike. Hey, it's great to have you here tonight. And I don't know if you caught any of Steve Quail's conversation. But
I did. I caught the end of it right when it was cut off, and I want to say I'm glad he is back. I'm glad. You know what? It's so funny, Pastor, because a lot of people, when Steve Quail was sick, a lot of his people that did not like him started coming out saying, well, he's going to die, right? They can't say anything else because he's back.
He's back.
That's so awesome, but listen, I haven't really tracked anybody out there, and I just looked into some of Steve's work. He goes way back there with Angel Tech and Giants and all this stuff, and I think that's pretty awesome. That's a testament to someone's persistence and vision concerning whatever the Lord gave him must burn within him. And so, that's another voice in these last days that people certainly need. And I'm just glad he's back, glad he's healthy and back. And, darkness cannot prosper. If God wants you here, nothing can take you out. So,
well, I'll tell you what, I appreciate you saying those kind words about Steve Quail. And you're right. He has done tremendous work for a long time, and he's been way out ahead of the cutting edge because God gives him vision. He sees it happening.
Yeah, that's a tough field, believe it or not. I know I'm kind of like that. I have no choice in what I do. I have no choice, and sometimes when you speak years in advance, well, you're a crazy person, right? Until things start to take place. It just so happened in my case that people listen. They do listen. They listen to Steve also. Steve has some allies in high places. He does. He has some allies here. So he's not totally abandoned. Of course, there's some mean folks out there. There are, and they like to protect what they have. But there's looking into some of the people on the internet. There are a couple that really stand out. And I should have looked up these folks earlier, but I didn't. This is the first year, Pastor Paul, I have ever listened to anybody else. Do you know that?
Really?
First year.
In fact, I know you've been hanging
at the beginning of this month.
You've been hanging with me. You and I, we've been, I think, almost 9 years. About 9 years, and I can say this, folks, without a doubt. And most of you who have been with us for several years, you know this now. Mike, when Mike first come on the first year or two, he brought some stuff out. He was out years ahead, and he was telling stuff that was coming. And I'm just shaking my head saying, where in the world is he coming from? And then I would say, and I was getting email, oh, this guy's nuts. What are you doing, Begley? Who is he? And the Lord said to me, this is a servant of the Lord that I have sent to you. And the words he speaks are words of truth. And as things develop and start to manifest, the people will become, eyes will open. People will become believers in the Bible and in the intel and in the prophetic word that is spoken. And so it's been 9 years, and I think a lot of eyes are opening, Mike, and I appreciate it greatly.
Yeah, I'm glad because you know what, let's face it, there's a lot of death. There's another death wave coming. right? And so everybody who is informed about these situations, what could potentially be, they're not going to be overtaken by way of the mind. You know, it's going to be scary for just about everybody, but those who have been informed, they can adapt, and most importantly, they can still help other folks in the ministry. Right, they can still carry the gospel without folding up themselves. So that's a very, if they listen, if their hearts are in it, to be of usage in this time. Because I'll tell you, there's no other time like this time we live in where God is just pouring things out to. So if He can pour out to me, He can pour out to anybody.
Amen.
Right? And so, you know, everybody has that opportunity right now to really represent the kingdom in a very powerful way. We're not just talking about words. We're talking about works, actual works. There are things manifesting in this time that didn't exist since, you know, the apostles. And it's all coming, it's pouring out big time. I mean, it's pouring out heavy.
Mike, as we're talking here, we were talking with Steve about the rationing, the shortages of food that looks like is going to hit on a global scale. You told us 2 years before it happened that the shelves would go bare, that some of the items are some of our brands that we like would just disappear and never come back. Steve Quail is giving us some intel. He has received that by June 1st, there will be major shortages on the shelves of America. Can you, do you have any information on that and
Sure.
beyond?
I have a small section of something I think that everybody needs to be aware of, right? Because sometimes when you're talking about food shortages, people begin to, you know, look in history and say, well, you know, we've gone through this before, this, that, and the other. No, we live in a very different time. Everybody remembers fifth generation technology, right? The implementation of 5G actually went out, and the commercial side of 5G, of course, is with your cellular devices. But as I said before, this 5G network is for machine-to-machine communication. And so what type machines do we have out there? Most importantly, most of the money is being spent in one area right now. It affects food, right? We're talking about artificial neural networks for food. And what I'm saying is this: the entire food industry is about to go into the night, is about to go black, is about to go dark, which means the human element in the processing of all foods is going to be removed. Now, to understand where the shortage comes in, right? That's what I want to talk about, Pastor Paul, because it goes hand in hand with some of the mimicry that AI has been producing for the last couple of months, right? A lot of people, when I did hear Steve talk about recalls, right?
Yes.
And all these elements feed back into these neural nets, this adaptive neural fuzzy interface system, ANFIS is what it's called.
ANFIS.
That's ANFIS.
What does that mean? Artificial neural.
That's adaptive neural fuzzy interface systems.
Okay.
Right. And what they've done is they've taken essentially fuzzy logic and artificial neural networks, and they have taken elements of both, and they have created a master system. Now, what the system does is that it will mimic an individual by way of your taste, your sense of desire, how your brain it utilizes certain proteins to process food. In other words, this system can refine food to keep you barely alive.
I mean, so you're talking rations. Living. You're talking rationing.
Essential living.
Central living.
Essential living, meaning there's a lot of things in food, right, that they're wasting money on, right? For example, if you have a chicken out there, why would you feed a chicken, something that the human body doesn't really process or need? So just eliminate that. Eliminate a specific component from the chicken, and you save money, right? And you can also produce chickens at probably half the cost, right? If they have a disease or something like that, the machines will manage that. But they essentially begin to reformulate the processing system of all foods, all of them, which takes humans out of the loop. It won't be a person checking the chickens out. It'll be an artificial intelligence machine, one of these fuzzy logic systems. By the way, they're already doing this for every establishment that's torn down, broken down, burnt down, destroyed. Another one is going up. And so these systems create a more accurate, they say trustworthy food processing system. They're taking over everything. So let me give you the real deal behind it, Pastor Paul, because it's amazing how this thing was implemented at this before COVID-19. At the same time, the food shortage started to really, show its face. And of course, now we're having food shortage issues by way of farms and growth. Of course, they cut the farms out, right? The train systems, the white cars are being spotted all over the place.
Yes.
In fact, there are 2 areas where they're being stockpiled, that they're being stamped and, fixed up, painted, because they're about to start food distribution in a specific way. But these systems use detectors at external systems, right, to check your diet out. That means they're in the sewage systems. They're in the water systems, right? All these sensors are. They are in the stores. All your medical data is going to be bounced against some of the fuzzy logic to see how human beings are actually doing, right, with the food. I'm telling you right now, they're going to cut the cost of all foods, right, down to about 10% of what it is now, because I'll say it again, it's called essential living, which means they give everybody who's living what they actually need, not what they want, what they need. We're going to have a very different food system coming up. And yes, this is another control mechanism, a big one, that's coming in right under people's noses. And it's I would say it's 60% established right now, 60% established. So we're talking, I know a lot of people used to talk about genetically modified organisms, right? That does not hold a candle to what these guys are doing. What I'm telling you right now is essentially people go into stores, they trust the name they see on the package, they have no idea how that food item or that product was produced. They trust it. And that's where the failure point is, because they'll go ahead and buy it. And when you control a person's appetite, when you tell them what they can or cannot eat, that's the ultimate control mechanism. Right now, we live in a world where you cannot grow your own food successfully. You're not going to do it. You're not going to get away from GMO anything. Is that genetically modified organisms are in the clouds? They're in the rain. They're in the stratosphere. They're in the clouds. They're going to touch everything it touches.
Mike, is that why when this the mandates first hit, that the governor in Michigan she mandated that nobody could go and buy seeds to plant their own gardens? And what was that about? I mean,
think about that. They're locking the entire food industry is about to go in the night. I'm going to say in the night. I don't want to use that word dark or black because that causes issues, but they're going into the night because they have machines that can smell, machines that can taste, right? They actually have artificial intelligence mimics the human brain as far as taste and smell. So they can give you food that you can tolerate. And believe me, it's going to be customized per state, because every state, every region has a different way they taste things, right? So if people notice right now, they're seeing some strange packaged food coming out to just about everybody. Right? They're different. They're brands you never heard of before. You don't really know where they come from. But these packets, they have health packets that are going out. They're going to start going out too to supplement what's been missing off the shelves. And all this stuff is being produced or manufactured internally. In fact, it's going to be worldwide. It's not just going to be here in the U.S. This is a global system that's online right now.
Now, Steve Quail made the comment and that social credit scores will determine the rations of food. Is that
absolutely? We talked about that last week, Pastor Paul. We were talking about how they're going to throw the whole credit system, right? It's going to be, if you notice, most of the policies that will come out are going to cancel debt, right? People are not going to like it. It's going to happen anyway. Debts are going to be canceled, but you're going under a social score. Why? Because the government is truly about to turn corporate. The government's not going to be what we've known it to be for so long. There's a new entity that's already in operation, and it's starting to rise. It's more like a council, not like a single president or somebody like that. This will ultimately lead to the fracturing of the states, because a lot of states are going to divide themselves. And when they do this, when they separate, right, they're going to be starved to death. You already have governors who are putting their states in order because they know it's coming. They've been informed. They know it's coming. And but they're going to be starved. They're just not going to be, their people aren't going to be fed. They're not going to have munitions or anything else, which is why certain people are stockpiling. So there's a clamp coming down. And the reason why it's coming down is because the excuse is the earth is falling apart faster than anybody ever estimated, right?
Right.
And they're going to use this to their full advantage. The Ukraine war, they need this war. That's a useless war, is what that is. It's very useless. And the reason why Putin is so, listen, you can read a guy. It's not hard to read anybody with the machines that they have right now, right? I'll tell you this. If a person does not have the Holy Spirit, you can be read so easy. It's not funny. They know what you're going to do tomorrow. They know how you're going to respond to any given situation, right? They already know this. But if you're filled by the Holy Spirit, that disrupts the mechanism. Right, so there's going to be no.
Well, Brock has brought up a point, Mike, and he's saying, what about the hunting, fishing, and foraging? The people who have these skills, will they have an advantage over the people?
Well, they will. But here's another problem. I think people underestimate what's happening right now. We have a drone highway that's finished in the sky, right? We already have monitor drones that are flying all over the place. And we have weapons all over the world. This is what people don't know. They have special satellites that can detect all metals. All right, so everybody knows this. They know where all the metals are. Guns are made of specific metals. Munitions have specific items in there that can be tracked. Okay, they can be tracked. Everything can be tracked every single second. So they know where anything that's metal, even special ceramics, special polymer plastics, they know where all this stuff is by satellites. They are triangulated. So when the clamp comes, because of safety, right? Listen, because of safety.
Always because of safety.
And the drone highway, you can't go out there with a weapon, right? You can't go out to certain places that are not marked for clearance of occupation because of drone safety regions. Right? They're doing this. This is already happening in a couple of places. I can tell you right now, hunting has been canceled. Fishing has been canceled. Why? Because you have to be cleared in these areas or the drones are going to peg you, right? They're going to ping you. And if you get pinged by a drone without proper identification, you're going to be a target, right? This system is going into full operation. Why? Because of cyber problems.
Well, okay, so all right, time out. Okay, so what I'm getting in my head is that you're saying there's already a drone highway up there. Yes. And yes, everything's got a microchip in somewhere. So all goods and services are being tracked no matter everywhere they go. Okay. Yes. And people have cell phones basically. So people are being tracked everywhere they go. And all metals being tracked. So if you go out hunting and oh, by the way, the government has been declaring certain large amounts of woods and forest and areas as national property, or I should say federal land. They've been doing land grabs across America, haven't they?
Yes, they have. I know a couple of people who went through that, and their property, essentially, they had to surrender their property.
So are you saying, Mike, that the drones will be able to monitor everything? So even if you say, well, I'm not taking the chip, I'm not going to be chipped, you can't find me, they'll follow the food where it's going.
Even if you're not chipped, people underestimate how sophisticated these systems are. These systems right now can see everybody they don't have to be chipped. They can see everybody. Okay. They have your bone prints. They have a 3-dimensional bone print of everybody. That's the one thing in a system that changes very slowly over time. So they can always identify you a long distance away because the chances of two people's skeletal systems being the same is slim to none. So they can track everybody by that, right? Every scan in the grocery store has helped along with this. That IR scanner is far reaching. Right? That can be demonstrated by anybody. They can scan your item, but somebody can stand 3.5 feet away from that counter and interrupt that ID scan, that laser scan. Okay, so people should know this by iPhones, right? By facial identification and security. But so what's going to happen now, though, Pastor Paul, is we're going to have a cyber problem. It's up and coming. I hope everybody's listening. A cyber issue is going to force a cyber clamp. Right? With this cyber clamp, because with this cyber issue comes terrorists. hope that everybody is listening. It's going to come terrorists. So you're going to have breaches. You're going to have more and more breaches, but you're ultimately going to have terrorists that will do physical damage. And when this happens, everybody's going to have to be identified on their whereabouts. Your cars, anybody who bought a car past the year 2017, you're already ready. Your black box is in your car. It's already transmitting. It's already doing everything it needs to do. It can already be shut down by satellite. So can your power. So can everything else be shut down by satellite, because we wanted more advanced technology and faster internet, right? So everything is ran kind of like a cloud system, right? Even your data, the data that you saved to any computer that was made past 2018, sure, it goes on your computer, but it's also going right in the air to a central cloud system, a central analytical system, a cloud system. So everything in your system is mirrored, right? A 24 terabyte hard drive may cost you a lot of money. It costs 3 cents to transmit that data every second, 3 cents a day to transmit 24 terabytes every second.
What?
So just think about that. Just think about that.
Whoa, wait a minute. So that means everything of everything is being tracked, but it's not that expensive for them.
No, it's not. It's just that people live this life where they believe everything is expensive and everything costs. If like an iPhone or something like that, that's sand. That is sand and forged materials. A lot of recycled materials. Very little silver. Very little gold. I mean, it's microscopic. A cell phone could cost, probably cost them $8 to make. In truth, $8 worth of material, because it's a bunch of sand and gasoline goes in with that price. And then you go into the manufacturing process, they're working off machines that that use recyclable energy, right? So it's not costing a lot to make this stuff. The engineering costs money. They want you to pay money because that's part of the economic law.
Oh, the R&D. The R&D.
Big farce. It really is.
Yeah, the R&D, the research and development to help get it up and going. But then once it gets cranking, it's rolling. So all right, so food, the way the old style of how we've been eating,
done.
Farmer from farm to table, that's over. Yeah, and even the way we've been processing food, these food processing plants, that's going away. It's going to be a much more sophisticated, tightened up, and rationed out and based on credit scores, and that's going to be because they're going to be watching what we say. I mean, I saw just yesterday they formed a new speech. I forgot the name of it. It's a council, some kind of governmental council to watch all of our speech. Forget the freedom of speech. They're going to manage phone calls, text messages, emails, all going to be analyzed.
Yeah, you know what? Freedom of speech, what is that? Because since, 2004, when everything was digitized, everything was being, analyzed, and people could not say what they wanted to say. See, here's what people are forming opinions based on information they've been given, right?
Yeah.
If somebody argues about a politician, they've been given that information by somebody, the politician, and what he does, right? To the public is one thing. What that politician does behind closed doors is something totally different. So, in fact, people are living in two worlds, and they're ultimately they're buying whatever they see before them, right? It's like living by flesh, not really spiritual, which is why anybody who has any sense of discernment with any given political situation, even the government, even the militaries or anything else, there's something wrong in their spirits. They can know all the information that they could ever find, and something would be wrong in their spirits. They say, well, something is missing here. Why? Because there's a backside to everything, and that backside is never, ever disclosed, right? Nobody knows about it. They sit there and they laugh at civilians because they don't know about it. They're buying the lie. They're buying the act. A lot of people are actors, Pastor Paul. They really are. They do a good job of act. They're getting paid for this, right? And so all you have to do is pay somebody to have a job, and you can tell that person how to do their job. Give them a nice bonus. And I'll tell you right now, they will take that and they'll say, no, that's my real job, because they'll defend that money. Yeah. Right. Because the bottom line is people want that money. They want the money. But, we're quickly approaching a time where the system people are used to is going to be abruptly torn down. Now, before you tear down a system, you've got to have some things in place. You've got to be able to contain civilians. So what do? You control the food. Right? Yep. Hunger is a real issue. And if you really want to make somebody be quiet, don't feed them. They they may not be quiet right away. As soon as they get hungry and the pains hit, that's a real issue. That's a real pain. That's something that hardly anybody can overcome, right? Famine is something that's not pretty. And Steve is right. A lot of people are about to see it on many different levels. So I'm sure he's giving, the front shore to everybody, but I'm sure he knows greater things about this famine, because it's just not good, which is why fastball in this and with everything that's happening right now, because humanity is about to go through something they've never gone through before. It is dark. It is evil, right? It is extremely evil, and no one is going to stop it. Obviously, this is just the time we're in. But all those, I'll tell you what, all those who join in with the world, right, who are in agreement with the world, they're going to suffer what the world suffers. My advice to everybody would be to back away from the world for a minute. Take a second look at everything. Weigh it against the Bible. And if it does not fit the paradigm of the Bible and what Jesus wants a person to do, stay away from it, because they're using a lot of bait tactics right now. They're trying to get people entangled in very dark things, right?
What about the medical world? Okay. I mean, you've talked about now, they want to stop us from driving cars. So they want us to drive little electric, golf carts or whatever. So, keep us contained. They're going to ration our food. They're going to do away with private property, and all of us can live in a small, tiny apartments. We should be happy with this. But what about our medical needs? And who determines who gets care and who don't?
All right, but let me back up real quick. Fastball, I'm going to be bold and say, here's a high percentage that's going to happen like this. You ready?
I'm ready.
The reason why people are not going to leave their homes is because they're going to be frightened to go out in the streets. Okay, that's number one. They're going to be frightened. They're going to be paranoid to go out in the streets. They're going to be frightened. It's not going to be kind out there, right? When you find out, when you start looking into the world of prisoners, that's when you start finding out the truth. Okay, it's not going to be a very kind place.
No, it won't be.
And so people are going to be indoors with locked and loaded with their weapons, but they're not going to be outside. Right?
Yeah.
Because it's going to become very dangerous in places where it's never been dangerous before. And if nobody believes that, the pilot program has already been underway. Right? They've been gauging this for a while. It takes psychology to get people to believe a brand new script so they'll go along with the movie.
Yeah.
So people are going to back off from going out. Right now, Pastor Paul, there are more people staying in, not because of COVID-19, but because they're frightened. They're frightened of people who are hooked on drugs, who are robbing and stealing. You have more violence in schools now. A lot of people will not send their children to school. They opt for, the alternative to homeschooling because they just can't send them to school. It's too violent. And it's getting worse. You throw in cyber security problems and terrorism, well, that's the end of that. So that's number one. Then when you go to medical, right, everybody has their cell phone. They're going to make it a point that everybody has a cell phone. Well, just in case you didn't notice, the processor on a cell phone, right, is a very
They're handing out cell
piece
phones.
Of engineering.
They're handing out free cell phones. Everyone that crosses the southern border, even everybody's got to have a phone.
Because it's a must that everybody has a cell phone, because a cell phone is your identification right now, not your wallet. Your cell phone is right. You have to be electronically identified, right?
Yeah.
They want everybody to have a cell phone. Everybody to have a cell phone. Why? Because it's essentially a big sensor. You don't have to have a mark right now. You don't have to have a tattoo right now. Your cell phone can detect, it can read your pulse. It does not have to be against your skin like an iWatch or something like that. That's easily proved. I could write an app for the iPhone that would do that same thing from about 10 feet away. I think the max is 10 feet away. So they can get your vitals very easily. Plus, you touch your iPhone all the time. But does anybody know that the casing of an iPhone is that the material it's made out of is the same? It's called Formica. Is in there, which is the same material they utilize for sensors, right? And it's also a separated case, meaning it has layers to it, and it also has wires in it. Right. So once your hand touches this thing and you start wobbling it around, it has two coils in there. And once they start shifting, they produce electromagnetic energy, which transfers into the chip. Right. So they track all this stuff. They're tracking your vitals. Now, what are they going to do with that? They know exactly what's wrong with everybody. They're not treating what's wrong with you. right? That's not what they've been doing. They've been treating people according, well, it's kind of like control mechanism. Here's how it's done. You get a doctor to go through training, go through school. You teach that doctor everything you want him to know, right? And you have some moral-based counsel behind that to tell him his do's and don'ts. So he really believes he's doing something for the people. You give him a handsome paycheck, and he's not going to question any of that because he's going to get paid for it. And plus, he's helping the people. But the truth is, once he enters that data on the computer, that the data is the criminal here. Because once they diagnose your body or something like that, trust me, they have just about everybody's DNA. If you didn't submit your DNA, somebody in your family did, somebody in your extended family did, so they have your DNA too. And they can look in your DNA and see every disease that you have. They've known this for about 13 years now, that your DNA, it essentially tells you what a person's going to have at what age. It's a blueprint to your health and the degradation of your cells, so they have the probability of the day of your death, right?
Yeah,
right
they do. That I
so
actually...
They know all this on a high level.
Yeah, I actually went through a treatment process last year, Mike, which was very, very new. I mean, I was only the 167th person to go through this to help me after the stroke. And it did help me. But I also, in that process, besides all the scans and all the blood work, they also sent my DNA off to Italy to and then from there to Israel. And when it came back, it's a book this thick. It's my DNA of my whole body. It's pages. My DNA is pages.
Oh, yes.
It looks like a computer software. And then there's a breakdown of every gene in my body. And it tells what I am susceptible to and which ones I'm not, and what genes I have. And there's certain genes that I have that will make me more and more susceptible to this, and there's others.
There you go.
And they said to me, we know the day of your death. And they said basically this: we know within 4 months, because of your telomeres at the end of your what do you call those things that grow? Is that the telomeres? It's your DNA. I can't remember, but there's little things on the end, and they're shrinking as you go, and they know when you're going to die, and they pretty well know what you're going to die of if you don't get killed in an accident or something. They pretty well know, but they could come within 4 months, and they've been tracking for a while, so they know their statistics. And so I said, well, then are you going to tell me? They said, no, we're not going to tell anybody what that says. But I said, but what if, I asked this guy, I said, but what if God decides to extend my life? And he says, that's something don't have any data on. Okay. We don't know about that one. But really, Mike, what you're saying is they've already got our skeletal blueprints. They've got our DNA information. They know where we're at. They know our likes and our dislikes. They know our social score. They know what our faith is. So are we being put in some kind of global matrix for a reason?
Well, it goes along with, this is my belief, it goes along with the book of Daniel, when it says, they shall mingle their seed with the seed of men. And it was talking about the kingdom before the everlasting kingdom, the kingdom that was partly clay, right? Partly iron, part clay. They're doing the same thing again. And the telltale giveaway is that they would mingle their seed with the seed of men, but they would not cleave one to another. And here we go. If you don't cleave, that means no physical touch. That means no marriage. Back in the days in Genesis 6, they clave one to another, which is marriage, which is two people becoming one flesh. This time they will not cleave one to another. They will not become one flesh. They will not take unto themselves wives. It's happening again. And they have searched. Well, I'm not going to go that far. Let's just say that all DNA has been tracked, right? You have your gram count on your DNA.
Yeah.
In 1996, Pastor Paul, they knew dehydroepiandrosterone levels of anybody who came into a doctor's office, which also is a marker for a person's death. And so when a person came in there and their level was 20 or something like that, if they didn't know about it, They wouldn't tell them about it. One day I said, well, what is my DHEA level? They said, well, your DHEA levels looks pretty good. And I looked at it. I said, yeah, for a dead man. And the guy looked at me real strange, like, you're not supposed to know that. And so now it's moved into that DNA field.
Right.
And it deals with the GRIM project. There's a project out there. It's called the GRIM project. Israel's involved. The USA is involved. A lot of people are involved, right? And it gives it what can cause your death. What can actually accelerate your death is what it deals with. And so with this think about this. That information an AI computer has access to. And the AI systems are controlling the food industry, right? You ingest food. So if they want to get you with some, I'll tell everybody right now, a lot of people walk around and say, they're trying to kill me. If they wanted you dead, you'd be dead a long time ago. They don't want to kill you. They want you to turn against Christ. How so? They want to frustrate you. They want to make you think. They want to make you feel miserable. They want you to curse Christ. That's the end result.
Yeah, you're right.
Because these guys, your top headed people, they absolutely believe in their deity. They absolutely believe in their deity, and they do everything they're doing is for their deity. And I'll say it again, they're waiting for the door to open. They have a mandate to be prepared. All things must be prepared before the door opens, and that day is very close. That's the bottom line with them.
Now let's talk about that door.
In the first place.
Now let's talk about that door, because you've talked about this door, this secret door. We put that over on Patreon one day because you talked about it. This door, is this a door? They're waiting for his essence. I think I heard you say the global elitists, the New World Order, they're really waiting for his essence to come through a door. Are we talking about the Antichrist? Are we talking about Satan himself, Lucifer himself? And you said that door is somewhere up in.
We're talking about the man himself, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about the man himself. Here's what they're promised, right? They're promised a prince. The earthly prince will come through that
prince
door,
of darkness,
right?
Yes.
Who bears all of the power of the one with 1,000 points of light, Satan, Lucifer,
right?
Beelzebub, right?
Right.
Whatever you want to call him. He's going to walk through that door. Right now, they have a responsibility through technology to, how do they put it, to receive him. They have to receive him in a very special way. This was ordained thousands of years ago, and they have been working on it ever since. They've recovered just about every piece of technology they could ever find in the ancients. This includes the marble carvings, very careful marble carvings, original altars. They've got 3 altars, Pastor Paul, full of blood, full of the blood of babies. These are not just normal altars. They have to contain the stained blood of babies. There are certain sacrifices that have to take place on every single new moon, right? And they have to get an extraordinary amount of people in this earth to participate. Listen to this. This is a big one, because I believe this happens every month out of the year except one. They have to get the populace of the earth to participate in ceremonies. See, and I'll be honest with you, this is why I do not entertain myself with this worldly stuff, because, I lost it when I found out about this. This information, although I couldn't show up because I have a pretty good poker face, was devastating, right? To even have to see a hint of it is devastating.
Is it the trick?
To learn that most innocent things are by no means innocent. They're not innocent. Most passive situations, things, entertainment, they're part of rituals. They're rituals. And people, guess what people do? People give their faith, their strength, right, over to these rituals. When they're sitting there saying, hooray, go for it. I want you to think of what happens. I know a lot of people like football. Right? Just continue to watch your football, but just watch where your heart is. When people are rooting for their favorite team, something spiritual happens to the person, right? If they want their favorite team to win, there's something spiritual that happens within the person. And if they're not careful, they're going to give their all over for that team to win. And they don't even understand what they're doing, because what they're doing is blindly backing, right, somebody else's creation. God did not create football. Man did. We don't know why they did it. We don't know the motive behind it. But when people sit there and celebrate these things, Pastor, because what breaks out after a football game? Fights, violence. You don't see people paying off other people's debts after a football game. You see violence. You see bad feelings. You see weird stuff.
Right. Mike, Brock just walked in here and he gave me this before you started in on the football conversation. But the NFL draft is going on tonight. He said, Dad, the NFL draft in Las Vegas right now is using hidden symbols right on the stage. He said, here we go again. In other words, similar to the halftime show of the Super Bowl, he's saying the NFL draft tonight, there's all kinds of hidden symbols that are going on right now on the stage in Vegas as the people are blind. Are you saying that when you said the beast kingdom wants to cause the people to participate, you're saying to blindly lead them, leading the blind, right?
Well, if a person is not giving their praise to the living God, they're giving their praise to something. The question is, what is it? Right? Here's the deal. A person is always giving praise to something. The question is, what is it? Right? What is it? Because if it's not going to the living God, I'm telling you right now, it's going to something in the earth.
Yeah, you're right.
It may seem innocent in the earth, but just like Brock just told you, this hidden iconography, these symbols are symbols of incantation. Kind of like it's the reason why they name things Apollo, why they have symbolism on all spacecraft. Right? They have to have the incantations on there. They have to have that rite of passage. There's something going on that's very real, and people are just simply blind to it. But spiritually, they know something is wrong. They just can't put their finger on it. Right? They know it. They can feel something is saying to them something is wrong, and they can't identify it. Well, I can tell you right now, it's everything outside of Christ. That's what's wrong. And that's why people have to really watch.
Yep.
Certainly in this time, they have to really watch, because there are tons. A long time ago, people talked about portals. You wouldn't believe, forget about portals. These things are, people are the best portals that could ever be. And there's so many things that have come through people that are starting to take out entire families, Pastor Paul. Why would an entire family commit suicide? And why would that happen 31 times this month so far? Why? A whole family? A whole family.
That's craziness.
No. There's something else at work.
Yeah, it's demonic.
This is one of those times we really have to have our eyes.
So
open.
our demons.
It's good that you are a pastor, but it's also good that people begin to realize that everything in the Bible is real. It's tangible. The spiritual realm is already at work. Satan does not desire to kill anybody. He desires to kill your faith that you have towards God and turn you against if he can turn a person against their brother, they're already walking in disobedience. And a person could easily reverse that and say, nope, I'm not playing that game anymore. I will not target my brother based on this worldly information another day. And if they do that, they can essentially have the doors back open to blessings, and they can be free of their own problem. But the change must take place within them. It must take place within them. Anyway, but this stuff is going on, Pastor, and it's big time. It's all over the place. Hardee's, iconography. McDonald's, iconography. And when children love McDonald's, they see that little M, and what do they do? What do they do when they see that M? They got to have it, right? But more importantly, they love it. They would defend it. Right?
Yeah, yes, you're right. It's very sad, but pop culture, everything that we're around is all leading us to worship this image of the beast that Mike is talking about. We're certainly living in the days, and what you've been giving us tonight, also huge information, is the systems to manage and lead people toward this beast kingdom worship of Lucifer and the Antichrist, the false prophet coming. And also, Mike, I'm hearing you say not only is it able to manage us and lead us there, but it's going to manage us and break us down, break our spirit, and try to overcome us. The Bible says in Revelation that this beast will make war with the saints and even overcome them. I think it's a temporary overcoming, but there is but then, of course, we know that we will win, as Christ will come and give us the boldness and the ability and to rescue us and to take us. But we're not to lay down. We're not to give in. We're to fight this thing to the end. Isn't that true? But isn't the system already in place also to identify who are the resistors and who are the ones that are going to succumb?
It's been in place since before. In 2021, the system really was put in place. You know what, Pastor? Not take up too much time, but people, just like when you said the beast shall overcome them. Well, that's very easy. A Christian wants good to be sown into the world. During the rising of the beast, good won't be sown into the world. Evil will. And in that way, he'll overcome the saints, because the will of the saints is not going to be in the earth anymore.
Yeah, it
it's
doesn't
the
mean
will of Satan. It's not that he can't
take
Satan he can't do anything he wants to do with anybody who belongs to Christ.
Right.
But it's very important. It is very important,
right.
Paul, that people not be tricked.
Yes.
Right now, people have given their love to things in the world.
Yep.
They've got to withdraw it from the world, because a lot of people are out there hurting right now. And you know why, Pastor Paul? Because they're loving something in the world. And if they would withdraw, they would say, no more of that. God would, I'm telling you right now, he would open the blessings back up to that individual again. They wouldn't be so grumpy. They wouldn't be so problem-stricken or anything else.
Yeah.
They could actually stand up and do some of the work.
Yeah, I think it's
Satan desires our faith to be gone.
I think it's a great point you just made, and it is exactly the truth. When it says that he will overcome the saints, he's not saying he overcomes our faith, or that he overcomes our salvation, or that he plucks us out of God's hand. It means our will, the Christian way of living, our society that we are fighting to hang on to right now, will eventually be overtaken by this evil. But you cannot ever, no way can the devil touch our salvation or our faith, as long as we submit it to God. But if people follow the beast, if they let it, they can be deceived. They can go the wrong way. They don't have to, and that's what you're doing. You're trying to warn people. You're trying your best to warn people. Don't follow what the world is doing. Okay, because if you're a friend of the world, you're enemy with God. Don't follow what the world is doing. Stay focused in Christ.
Amen. That's my simple philosophy. That's the only philosophy I have. If it's not Jesus Christ, it's not righteous.
Okay, now these technologies, just take a few more minutes if you could, Mike. The technologies,
yeah, sure.
The technologies that they're using, this drone highway in the sky. I mean, that one blew my mind for a minute. But it's so true, isn't it? And so what about containment? Can you tell me what they're doing? Citizen containment. What's going on in Shanghai? Is this going to become more normal? Is this the beginning?
Oh yeah.
Is this
it's going to spread.
It's
going to spread.
What is this?
Well, everything that happens in China, haven't we noticed that everything that happens in China, right, is adopted in some sort of a simulation in the USA and in Europe, right? So here's what happens. Humanity learns from humanity. And they see the outcome of what's happening in China. They're not looking at the people being locked away. They're not looking at that. What they're looking at are, what is the output to the containment? What is the actual advancement that they're having in China? And believe me, if they have the smallest advancement, right, that they can also see for their own country, they're going to use it. In fact, there's so many ideas that have been adopted from China, from Russia, that are being utilized in the USA. It's not even funny. People really have to step back and take another look, because this world it really is just like a script. And soon people are going to be frightened to go outside, because they know that they're going to have to engage something, or it's unsafe. People don't like that feeling of being unsafe. Right now, it may be just words. But when it comes to a person's community, it's going to change, right? Having a weapon fully loaded with ammo, that's not going to change the situation, because there are other folks out there that will have it too. And if a person, all these are points also of faith failure for a Christian. Because, I asked God one time, I said, if somebody came up to your house, are you going to just shoot them blindly because they came up to your house? He says, oh, yes, I had to defend my house. I said, what if he wanted something to eat? What if that's all he wanted? Then the guy said, well, how do you know the difference? And I said, bingo. God will never place any of us in a situation beyond that which we can bear. If we find ourselves in a situation we're able to handle it, all we have to do is follow what the Lord has given us. Right? He gave us enough for this day to establish us. So it really is a fact of choosing him in everything we do. That's all a person has to do. Am I choosing Christ in everything I do? And if they do that, they'll see where the enemy is all the time. He's hidden. He can't sneak up on anybody, because if he does, we have angels camped around us. But a frontal assault, we have a choice to say no or yes. Yes or no? And we have to handle that one. If he's sneaky and comes from the side, he can't do that. But he will always give a frontal assault. He'll always tell you exactly who he is, right? And in these situations, Pascal, like this containment coming, Jade Helm, people, nobody's talking about what came out of Jade Helm.
Right.
Nobody's talking about Walmart anymore. There's so many things that have happened that have painted a picture of preparation of what will take place. But what happens to our minds, we get so captivated by the latest and the greatest that we forget about the historical points we should have kept. Because trust me, the data from that simulation is being kept, from those scenarios is being kept. That was about domination. That's the key word, domination. That was about domination. And in fact, on most of these military programs in these operations, it's about air dominance. It's about land dominance. It's about territorial dominance. It is to totally take over everything. That's what it's about. And how can they effectively do it? With civilians, right? Because as soon as the Twin Towers fell, so then started the civilian portion of this long-term plan, which is, how does the military, right? The military just can't go and seize everybody and say, hey, look, you've been to the new rules of the government or not. Nope. They need the people to demand it. They need to, remember I said that a long time ago,
yeah.
People are going to demand a safe place to be, that they're going to demand that they
be
put in safety. You're not going to have to move a soul. They're going to say, hey, I can't live here. I need a safe place to be. Yeah. And then all these imprisoned, these camps that people were talking about, were seeing and investigating, they don't do that anymore. That's where they're going to want to go.
Yeah, you're saying people are going to be controlled because of lack of food and water, because of lack of safety. They don't want to go to these horrible prisons that will be set up. They're going to be tracked everywhere they go. They're going to beg. They're going to beg. In other words, please feed me and keep me safe. Just to help me. In other words, they are building a system to manage the populace, and it will be a two-class system. The ruling class, and it's almost like the Hunger Games. Almost, it's that kind of mentality. But it's really out of the pages of the Bible. It is Revelation. It really
is. It really is. And if we could just open our eyes and see it, because Pastor, didn't they, just not too long ago, it was defund the police.
Yes. Now they're begging for safety.
Yeah. And what were the people saying? I need protection. I need my store protected.
Yep.
I need to be protected at home, and this, that, and the other. And they were like, we need police to keep me safe. So we heard the cry, and people are going to hear this cry again.
I need to eat. I need gas for my car. I need medical care. I need water. I need safety. And I need shelter. The basics. And okay, Mike, let me ask you this. What about every day now, Putin is telling us he's going to nuke us. He's telling us he's going to nuke somebody. He's warning the Europeans. He shut the oil off of Poland and Bulgaria. How close are we? Is he going to do something? Maybe a small tactical nuke? Is something about to happen?
Putin is not joking. When people hear on the media, there's always an SOP, standard operating procedure they have to operate by in the media, right? So when they address Putin, they're not going to address him as some sober individual. They're always going to address him like he has lost his mind, or they're going to laugh off some of what he's talking about or something like that. Folks, hear me. Putin is not joking. What he's doing is giving a warning to the populace. Putin will always warn the populace before he does something. He did the same thing in the Ukraine.
Yep.
He did the same thing in Crimea. He gave these warnings of exactly what he was going to do. He told those people in there exactly what he was going to do. And then months later, he did it. He's doing it again. He's doing it in the same pattern that he also said with Ukraine, Crimea. He's doing the same thing. Before he took out some of the operatives, some of his own people that were against him, he gave them a warning. He said, look, you might want to reevaluate where you stand. He gave them a chance, but when they continued, they ended up dead, right? You're looking at 125 people he personally took out. He personally ordered their death. So when it comes to him saying he's going to launch a nuclear weapon, because essentially the world right now has taken everything away from Russia or has blocked him in every corner. They're messing with his daughters. They're starting to stoke his anger. And he has. It doesn't matter what anybody said. A lot of people say, well, he doesn't have the capability to launch a nuclear. Are you kidding me?
Are you
Putin
serious?
purposely, when he became president, he had a redundant system put in place that's evident by some of the radar systems that were left out, that people found them to be, they were dummies, right? In other words, you could enter the codes, they would go through all the ops, but they had to go through that CNC center that he put up, and only if I'm not mistaken, about 4 or 5 people know where it is, and his family, they know where it is. They know exactly
right where it's at,
which is why he keeps him far away from it. And when he wants to launch, if something happens to Putin, there's also a KGB trick that I'm sure is in the works. If something ever happens to Putin, do you not know, without his biosignature, a machine will not authorize the shutdown of a procedure that will automatically start.
So there's a kill switch
every single day, and without his biosignature, if he doesn't have that biosignature, it will not shut down. It will not shut down. So it starts every single day, and only he and a couple other people have authorization to stop it. So you're looking at something. It's just like if you took a weapon, right, and put a device on it where that trigger pulls every single morning, and the only thing that stops the hammer from going the bolt from going all the way back is you pushing a button to halt the firing sequence. That's essentially what we're looking at. So
let me ask you this question.
Why do you think he's still alive? They could have taken this guy out 1,000 times.
Right? Okay, so you're saying there's a fail-safe.
People out 1,000 times.
There's a
dead man switches.
There's a dead man switch. There's a fail-safe that if he dies, it will set off something, several maybe.
Yes, it will. Yes,
okay.
It will.
Do you know at this moment, is there any intelligence out there that isn't classified? That who are the next in line there? I mean, who is the next? Who replaces Putin if he dies of a heart attack? If something.
Well, you know what? Outside of the standard chain of command, right?
Yep.
Of what people have been given, no one's going to discuss that except by authorized paying, because he has changed his entire command structure. Putin doesn't trust people, and this situation with the Ukraine has actually caused him to uproot quite a few people. Right? He has some trusted friends. It's almost like that situation that a lot of leaders found themselves in. Hitler, Mussolini, all these guys, and they got people they could trust. Right after something happened, and he found out they didn't have the heart to go through with things, because some people quit because they would not be a part of killing all those people in the Ukraine. That's an actual statement. They said, nope, not going to have a part of that, because he's going to kill every single last one of them. Right? They said, I'm not going to do that, and they just couldn't go through with it. So he has since made some changes, right? And so the folks that will come up behind him they're going to be handpicked. They're being checked out every single day, right? They're being tested to see where their loyalty is. You better believe that. And all the traitors are being marked. They probably will be terminated if this situation does not turn around, right? Because he's giving a chance before he goes for broke. He understands that the Russian people, if the Russian people are stripped of everything, right, he's going to say, well, that's the end game. We may as well go to the ultimate step, because all Russia will die, right? If there's ever a chance that Russia will certainly die, that it won't be Russia anymore, I'm telling you right now, he'll do anything and everything. He loves Russia, period. He loves it, period. He loves the people. He has a genuine love for the people. And to him, he's like a father who won't fail his own people, right? But if a person says, I'm not your people anymore, right? Well, then naturally they're going to be against his family. He has that type mindset. It's kind of like a mafia leader or something like that, right?
Yeah, well, I think that's what it is.
I don't want to put that on the man himself, but this guy's adopted some traits and practices that, well, they just fall in line with some of the extremist attitudes people have in the world today. And so when he makes that threat, you better believe it's going to happen, but it will also be foreshadowed. So watch for the foreshadowing, because he'll foreshadow it. He'll send a warning shot. He's going to let the world know he's not bluffing. And that's when everything will change if they're smart enough. I have a suspicion, Pastor Paul, that one of his warning shots is going to affect the USA and Europe and the UK.
Yeah.
Right?
And
even too. Right now, my heart is going out to the UK. It really goes out to the UK. I know that Italy is in the right in the middle of a monster, but my heart is going out to the UK. I cannot help it. There are just too many unprotected places that could really be compromised, right? So my heart's going out to the UK as well as Europe and America, but first and foremost the UK, because they to me, they're in their most danger. So Putin is not playing. So we're going to find out.
Mike, this has been a tremendous revealing broadcast for sure. You know, Saturday we're doing what's called the Global Revival, and we're linking people from Pakistan. We have 2,400 people at a crowd in Pakistan that they're gathering. I don't know how many in India, and also will be in Africa, and then other people speaking. And tonight we're asking for some help tonight. We need to raise $5,000 to help pay for this. Those people can't pay anything. We're giving to them. We're making it happen so the people could be there. We're busing people in. We're feeding people. We got to make sure it happens. We want to lead people to Christ. And so I want to say something. What you've done tonight is you've just shared with everyone that the urgency of us to get this gospel to the world and to be ready ourselves. The moment is now, isn't it, Mike?
Yeah, it really is. It really is. It really is. And you know what, Pastor Paul, it's like that. I know a lot of people, they kind of turn away from any money situation, right?
Right.
But I said this before and I'll say it again. These are times when Satan cannot be allowed to win in any house of God. You know what that means? Not one pastor out there should have to ask for a dime.
Right.
You know why? Because everybody knows that the pastors take care of by the congregation. And
right.
This is a time when people should follow what the Lord has put in them without hesitation. I'm serious. Whatever He put in a person, and it's not always money, right? But no pastor should have it, because God has put the pastor in the hands of the people. He really has. And He did it in the Bible, and the people were responsible. They didn't even know it. This is a time for people not to act on these worldly reservations. Well, I don't know what anybody's going to do with it, and this, that, and the other. No, but to act on the voice of God, because I'll tell everybody something. I love to give, Pastor Paul, and there was a guy that I gave to, and everybody said, well, you're stupid for giving that guy money, right?
Right.
You know what happened 4 years later? This same guy came back, and he had to tell me. He said, you know what? My life has changed, because this guy was a Christian. You know what he said? He said the day I gave him that money, because he knew who I was, it ate him up for all those years. It would not leave him alone. He gave his life to Christ, and it still ate him up, because he took advantage of something he deemed that was anointed. He comes back 4 years later and he finds me. He apologizes, right? He gives me this whole story, but then he also tells me how his life turned around. It turned around because that what I gave him ate away at him until he changed. You know what I told him? When you give with a heart of love, right? Yep. Because God is love. When you give with a heart of love, God is associated with what you give. And because He is associated with what you give, it's no longer up to me what happens to us, no longer up to anybody else. God takes care of it.
God takes it from there.
He's obedient, and His word never returns void. No. So what that means is, because a person gave from the heart, right? Their heart, the very thing that's broken inside of them, the very thing they're troubled by, all these fright and scares and everything that people has, the Lord Himself will look over those issues for the person, because He always watches over. He won't watch over my word to perform it, but He'll watch over His word to perform it. And He will never fail. Amen. And when a person gives an obedience, right? Yep. They just released His word in the situation, right? But it takes a heart of love. That means a person has to see. They have to see what they're doing. Yep. Do it with the heart of love, but never hesitate. That's exactly what Satan wants. If Satan can cause hesitation, right? It's kind of like you walk by somebody on the street and your heart says, well, go ask him something or go give him something, and you
Yeah.
hesitate, there's a guilt that comes with it. There's an opportunity missed. And people are saying, where's my family blessing? Why is my child messed up? Why am I in this situation? If they want those things broken, they have to walk in obedience. Real obedience with love. They have to want to do it, right?
That's
they have
right.
to want to do it. So when anybody gives anything, not necessarily all money, but anything freely like that for the sake of the kingdom, it never goes unanswered. But the key is to give with love.
Amen.
And that puts you in that obedient path. And in obedience is everything a person would ever require. Because I'll tell you something, in the times to come, money is not going to help a soul.
Nope.
It's not going to help anybody.
Nope.
But they're going to need things from the Most High because nobody else is going to be able to provide it. And they have to clear their conscience, right? If your conscience is not clear, there's a reason for that.
Yes.
Clear it up. We're not to have a messed up conscience when Christ comes back. Because if we do, that means we purposely left things undone. We purposely did that. And so hopefully people get this. So, because if it's one thing I hate to hear, Pastor, I hate to hear people who would dare preach the gospel ever have to ask for anything, because I know for a fact that God gives insight to folks spiritually, right? If they would just obey, no one would ever talk about money again. If they would just obey.
Well, that's the key. If they would just obey. And we thank God. So thank you, Mike. Thank you so much for your support, and thank you for giving us the truth tonight. And I think Steve Quail did a great job tonight as well. And I think you guys have just nailed it. This is the time. We're in the end times, and it's time to get things right with God, folks. It really is. Mike, appreciate it. Thank you for being with us tonight. God bless you. God bless you, brother. I'll see you next week, Lord willing.
All right.
Okay.
God bless.
Bye-bye.